Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another cup of self-empowerment to trust, heal, and be thyself. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome a very special guest from Florida, USA, to us today. So welcome Stephany Gomez, who's joining us for a cuppa at our Healing Hub today. Hi, Stephany.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me here
My
today.
absolute pleasure. We're all delighted that you're here today. So for those of you who have not had the enormous pleasure of stepping into Stephany's energy, and this is going to be a premiere for you, I would like to give you a little bit of background knowledge, which I'm sure Stephany's going to elaborate on during our cuppa. So let me just introduce Stephany to you all. So Stephany's spiritual journey and relationship with spirit began when she was merely 8 years old. She was able to see and speak to archangels. This has expanded and continued and been very on and off as we all grow and evolve at different times. But however, her mission and her purpose is to help guide others who find themselves abruptly encountering a dark night of the soul or an awakening, which for the first time, which is all very different for us all. And Stephany helps others to ease this particular process into their self-discovery and healing journey. And over the last 5 years, Stephany has been trained and certified in over 100 healing modalities. And none of her sessions ever look the same because she truly tunes into what that client needs and pulls and draws from her magic myriad of tools to best assist them in that session. And as much as she loves to hold sacred space for someone to heal, Stephany's biggest passion comes from actually teaching and mentoring clients on how they can accelerate their own spiritual growth. As she lives by the concept of teach a man how to fish and he will always have something to eat versus giving him a dinner plate once. So thank you. That's just beautiful. So let's just step in. We've got over 100 healing modalities. You started speaking with spirit when you were at the mere age of 8 years. So how did you actually start trusting thyself on your spiritual journey?
Oh, I tell you, I have to say it was definitely when I reached that dark night of the soul back in 2015.
Mm,
I really disconnected from everything. I felt disconnected from myself, from my body, from the world. It was
yeah.
just really intense and dark time for me. And I knew that there had to be more than what met my human eyes. And I just started um having out loud conversations with whatever was out there, whether it was an old man who looked like Santa Claus with a white beard living and sitting on the clouds, or whether it was some sort of entity. And I would voice out, like, I know that there has to be more to this life. I know because I remember when I was a child, I remember feeling connected to something big, something huge, something that my soul just spoke to it in a beautiful magical way. And I knew that if I felt that as a child,
Yeah.
there had to have been a way where I could reconnect myself as an adult back
Okay.
into that energy.
So I'm understanding that you actually you had all these experiences as a young child, but then you shut that down again. Is that correct?
It unfortunately, one day as a child, before I was 9 years of age, one day I was in the bathtub and I was just singing. To me, it was singing at that time. Many years after, on my spiritual journey, I actually understood what was taking on that day was actually called light language. I
Ah,
was singing in a language that was, to the humans, it's not understandable.
yeah.
And my mother came into the bathroom and she said, what is that gibberish talk that's going on in here? Like, what are you saying? And
Mm.
who are you saying it to? And I simply said to her with all of my innocence, I said, oh, I'm singing and I'm entertaining. Me and the angels are entertaining God. And
Mm.
my mother was pretty bewildered by what I said to her. And she grabbed me out of the bathtub, pulled me into my room, and I was soaking wet, naked. And she grabbed me and she took me to my room and she said, that is uh That's blasphemy. That was the first time I heard the word blasphemy. She said, that's blasphemy. Nobody can see or talk or engage with angels or with God. She said, if you ever do that again, if I ever hear you saying of such a thing, I will have you it going into a mental institution. Because
Oh
to
my
her, that
goodness.
was really blasphemy. She really thought that I was, you know, creating something, that I was delusional or whatever. I mean,
Oh,
she grew up Catholic, so
okay.
it was not acceptable to kind of play around, joke around, or for a
Yeah,
child to imagine such things. And
okay.
so when she left me in my room to get dressed, I was so afraid, and I
Mhm.
spoke to the angels and I said to them, I love you guys, but this is going to be the last time that I see you, that I talk to you. And
Oh,
so for the next 30 years of my life, I actually
30
shut
years.
I shut out the angels, anything that had to do with like spirituality. And it wasn't until back in 2015 that I was going through that dark night of the soul. And I just kind of every day I spoke to myself, until one day I was going through the most darkest time of my life. And I was trying to off myself. I was trying to commit
Yeah.
suicide through I was an extremely heavy drinker. I was basically an alcoholic. I just didn't get diagnosed medically. But
Mhm.
every day I was drinking to the point where I would just lose consciousness. And then that day I woke up and I said very passionately, very intensely, I said out into the air, I said, either today's going to be the day where I am able to finally leave my body, leave this plane, or whatever's out there that is going to help me know that there's more to life than what I'm going through, it's going to meet me. And that day, before I
Mhm.
started drinking, and that was the most beautiful part, it was that I didn't actually get to drinking, so I couldn't kind of think that I imagined what happened next. But basically I had an out of body experience,
Oh,
and that was
tell us.
magical.
No, please tell us.
Very scary at the time,
I
because
imagine.
I had no idea what was actually taking place, but I could feel my spirit, my soul was leaving my body. And I can, like, basically, I could see the essence of myself leaving my body, going up, and
Oh,
body down on the couch
that
in
must
the
have been
middle of
really.
the living
Oh my
room.
God.
And my children were in the other room, and I was like, am I dying? Like, what's going on? And then I heard the voice of God, and the voice of God was just magical, and it was comforting me, and it was telling me, you are right, my dear, I've always been here. I've just been waiting for you to decide that you want to be a part of this. And it was just beautiful, and I started
Goosebumps off my
crying.
whole entire body. Oh,
Yeah, and I started crying. I came back into my body, and I started I went to Google. I was like, what just happened?
conversations with
Am I
God
going
in
crazy?
the search engine.
So I went to Google, and the what I heard when I was communicating with God was, this is your spiritual awakening. And so I went to Google and I put in, like, what's a spiritual awakening? And that led me to doing some research. And then that day I went onto Facebook and I put spiritual awakening on the search bar, and it introduced me to my first spirituality group. And I was welcomed by phenomenal people explaining to me what I was going through, and all the big words started coming up, like consciousness, meditation.
Mm.
And voila, that was the awakening, and the beginning of my journey to spirituality.
That was your gateway, basically, the gateway which was already there, but you'd closed the
It was
door
already,
on.
I,
Yeah.
where I say to my clients and the people that are in my world, they usually have that question of like, how did you awaken, or how long have you been on your journey? And I like to say, we've always been on the journey. We don't necessarily know it. We're not
It's a
necessarily aware.
remembrance, isn't it? I always think it's a
Exactly.
remembrance. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. You have a remembrance of who you are. And obviously there's lots of levels to this,
Oh,
right?
goodness. Yeah.
That was just the first one.
Wow. Okay.
I
So
feel,
it
I feel like
connected
I've
you.
been
You started
this.
trusting. Oh, that's incredible. So obviously you started trusting. And that led
Yes.
you to search and find on. So you followed your breadcrumbs basically, which
Yes.
obviously, did that start you? You were obviously healing from alcoholism. So you started on your journey to heal thyself. So how did that all show up for you? How did that all unfold?
It's just beautiful how everything is always interconnected. I believe I'm a huge believer of divine synchronicity, how everything just kind of weaves itself.
Yes.
You find you find the resources, you find the teachers that are
Yeah.
guided, helping you, regardless whether there's money involved or no money. Some people just they just connect to you and they just see this beautiful light in your aura that
Mhm.
lets them know this is the person that I want to be of service to, or this is the person that I know this certification or this program it's meant for them. And everything just kind of weaved itself together like a beautiful web. And I was led from one person to another, or I was led from one program to another.
Mhm.
um it's just when you're open to what it is that you need. Because here's the thing, if you have an expectation, if you think that it has to look a certain way, or that it has to be a certain way, or that it has to sound a certain way, you're already limiting yourself to the beautiful divine magic that awaits you. So you
Yeah.
have to really open up your heart and you have to open up your mind. You
Mhm.
cannot have an expectation as to, oh, it has to be this way, or it has to look this way, or it has to be with this person, or
Oh.
it has to be a certain amount of time,
Mhm.
because that's ego being in control.
That's very true. And also, we're all so completely unique and individual. So it's going to be different.
It's going to be different for everyone.
And there
Different.
is no right or wrong because it's
Exactly.
uniquely tailored
It is
to
what
what
it
you
is.
need and what you're
Yeah.
here to do, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm really curious because over 100 healing modalities. Okay. So you started on your healing journey for
Yeah.
yourself. So
Yes.
how did you start learning and what are all these modalities? Please
The
explain.
first one, the very first one that I was guided to working with was Reiki. I
Mhm.
think I believe that that's why I'm such a passionate Reiki master teacher instructor, is because I truly feel in my heart that Reiki is kind of like that doorway you step in that leads you to the grand hall that also has like thousands of different doors. So it's kind of like I mean, for anyone who's never worked with Reiki or has never heard of Reiki, I invite you in this moment to please, by all means, after you're done watching this, when you have the first opportunity, go ahead and uh, research or go about your own ways of finding out what Reiki is. Or I invite you to come back into my website, my channel, and
Definitely.
listen to one of the recordings of the meditations where I take people on a journey and they experience Reiki energy through those recordings, and just feel the amazingness that you're going to connect with. And I can only say it in that way because each person is different.
Yes.
Some people will feel electrified, some people will feel calmed and relaxed. Reiki simply is beautiful, unconditional, loving energy for it all. It could be for humans, it could be for pets, it could be for animals, for insects, doesn't matter. Everyone, as long as you are open to receiving and connecting to that beautiful energy, it's there for you.
Mhm.
And so I started off with Reiki. And like I said, it was kind of like a spiritual awakening of healing modalities for me, because after I was introduced to Reiki, I started learning about other healing modalities and different frequencies. And
Mm.
each one has its own magic. Each one serves its purpose. Um, and I just didn't know. I didn't understand why I was basically becoming a hoarder of all these beautiful different techniques and healing modalities. And for a while there, I actually battled with my ego because I thought it was my ego
Okay.
asking me of like, oh, okay, because we felt a void in other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe my ego was kind of collecting all of these different energy healing modalities. And
Mm.
at one point, I was like, enough. Like, I think this is enough. But then, of course, the beautiful divine voice came back into my life and explained to me, I promise you, this is not your ego. This is your true divine self. This is your higher self leading you to
Wow.
all of these beautiful tools.
Mhm.
What I didn't know was that it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for my family. It wasn't for my immediate circle. It turns out that at the same time, I was also searching for what my life purpose was. I knew that I could no longer continue working in the mundane world, doing mundane things. And little did I know that all of these modalities that I was learning and that I was getting certified was actually a huge chunk of what my life purpose in this lifetime is,
Mhm.
which is to be a teacher of spirituality, which is to be able to help guide out of the darkness the people that are feeling called to
Yeah.
the light. And so now all of these beautiful healing modalities are now tools and assets that I am able to provide to the people that are coming into my world.
That's really beautiful. That really is really beautiful because, you know, sometimes we talk about, you know, we're trying to get out of the mundane world and stuff like that. And that's, you know, sometimes it's absolutely okay. It's like just because you start learning spiritual tools and start working with energy, it doesn't mean that each and everybody needs to do that full time. You know, we also need people on the front line as well doing, you know, basic
Correct.
life for us all as well. And also, if you know, to have the tools, as you're saying, you're sharing these beautiful modalities, which are like so numerous. And it's
Mm-hmm.
equally important, I always feel, for someone who's on their spiritual journey, you know, because they want to become a mentor or a teacher, but also for those who just want to get through the day or just wanting to
Yeah.
have that self-trust and self-healing, what they can cater into their own and integrate into their own lives. So, you know, obviously for that reason, we need people like yourselves to be here and pave the way forward for us. So, you know, you can pass on this knowledge and wisdom and healing and everything. So that's really, really good. So when would you say, you know, was the moment where you said, okay, right, this is what I'm going to do. This is unapologetically me. This is how
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be me. This is me, who I am. um was there an exact point in time which you say, okay, that was the point? Maybe, I don't know, when you left your job, I don't know, when was that point?
I'm going to say for sure. I mean, I'm going to say it had to have been the day that I had no choice. I had to get sober. I
Yeah.
had to get sober.
Yes.
I know for a fact that now, knowing that there is more than what meets the human eye, knowing that there's a veil, and knowing that if I choose to allow myself to be connected to source, to be connected to God,
Mhm.
um, I now have a responsibility to myself and to anyone who may potentially see me as a role model. I have the responsibility of showing up in the world exactly as I am, not through the lens of substance or through addiction or through what,
Mhm.
because if I was numbing myself, trying to make it in the world and trying to look like I could hold it together
Yeah.
and people were loving me, I wanted to experience what it was to receive love without that crutch. Because for me, it was a crutch.
Truth. Yeah.
So
True.
I wanted to see how living life soberly would be any worse than it was me living it through an addict of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I said, if people can love me through those flaws, I want to experience being loved through my my humaneness, right? Through my own humanity. And it's been the best thing that I've been able to experience because I show up as I need to be in the moment. I'm not perfect.
None of
There,
us are. We're humans.
yeah,
We're
of
not
course,
machines. We're humans.
exactly. And there are days where I feel like I have it all together, and there
Mhm.
are days where I don't have it all together, right?
And that applies to each and every single person on the planet, I would say,
Yeah,
if we're going to be
absolutely.
really honest.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the kicker. Sometimes people think that because you're a guide, a mentor, practitioner, or because you have 1,000 certifications or whatever under your belt, sometimes people think that you're somehow perfect or you're somehow a guru.
Untouchable, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm.
no, I have news for people that are watching this. it never gets it never gets I don't want to say that it doesn't get any easier, but you simply get to a point where you I want to say you reach acceptance. You reach acceptance of who you are
Yeah.
and the experiences that have made you who you are, and that give you the inspiration for you to continue moving forward in your journey and becoming more and more and more authentically. Because
Hmm.
we have to remember the world conditioned us, whether it was through family, whether it was through friends, whether it was through entertainment, whether it was through school, right? So we identified with all of these conditions that were passed on to us.
Hmm.
And the more that you continue on your journey consciously and intentionally saying, I really want to uncover who I am,
Hmm.
some of those masks that you have made your own, they
Hmm.
start dropping. And you're like, oh, wow. Well, I thought for the past 20 years that I enjoy doing this or
Yeah.
that I had to do that because
You
ever
allowed
since.
yourself to be put in that box, basically. That box was
Exactly.
the acceptable box, what you should be in.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And it comes a point where you're just like, well, I've done all that and it didn't really give me joy. It didn't give me passion. Or I've done it all my life because that's what I was told by my nana or my grandma
Yeah.
that I was so good at, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that I had to continue doing it. And sure, I mean, there are lots of things that naturally we are born with, but they don't necessarily need to be the priority, right?
And they don't
Sometimes
define us as well, do they?
sometimes you can be a natural good cook, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a chef all your life, right?
Exactly, yeah. Is everyone
So
who dines at your house will just love you even more because it's like, yeah.
so I give you permission that if you don't like to cook, don't cook. Or
I'm sure
maybe
there's plenty of us who are going to say, oh, yeah, I'll apply that one to myself right now. Thank you very much for the permission slip.
Stephany Gomez, this weird lady, said.
No, we don't use that weird word. There's no such thing as
Well,
weird.
I love the word weird, to be honest with you, because to me, being
I like the
weird.
word eccentric.
Oh, eccentric is better. Yeah, I
I like
agree.
that.
But I definitely feel that when you're not a copycat, when you're not being um a model of what's expected, you're being eccentric or you're being weird, and that's okay. That's beautiful
Yeah.
because you're being yourself. No, that's the beauty of it all, is that each human being is like a snowflake. It's like a fingerprint, right? Each one is different. You may have something that is similar to another person or that reminds someone of someone else, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we all have our own uniqueness, our unique magic.
Definitely. Definitely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And as you say, there is this perception that the more you can, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the less issues you have. Yeah, you shift through them easier because you've got the
Mhm.
tools. You learn to
Exactly.
turn it around quicker
Yeah.
because you've got
Yes.
the tools. Do they turn
Exactly.
up? Oh, yeah, they do.
Yes.
They turn up and you have to move through it like each and everybody, because we're not living on a desert island just with ourselves. We happen to intercommunicate and live and be with other people. So there's always going to be something being reflected back to us, which is going to make me or yourself or anyone think, okay, why is that triggering me? Why is this affecting me? Well, you know, that's
Correct.
something that's another layer which you're getting shown. Okay, you're ready to release this, or you're
Yes.
ready to work on this, or
Yeah.
there's always something coming up, and it's nothing to be fearful of, and it's nothing to think, oh my God, it never ends. It's
Exactly.
actually an adventure.
It is.
It
It is.
can get hardcore, and sometimes you want to just hide.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
there's days in normal life where you just want to hide as well. So
Yes.
what's
Exactly.
the difference really at the end of the day? So what advice would you personally like to give our viewers today on their journey to mastering themselves?
Just learn to trust yourself. I know that it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but just know that inside of you there's an internal guidance system. Some people know it as intuition, other people call it by other names, but know that in reality there's something inside of you that is always leading you to what is best for you,
yeah,
to connecting yourself to the truth of who you are.
yeah,
Once again, letting go of those preconceived notions that we were given, whether it was through birth, whether it was through our environment, our society. Just know that there's magic inside of you, and it's up to you. It's your responsibility for you to uncover what that magic looks like. It's very different for each and every single person. And the beautiful thing, like Kelly, you said a few minutes ago, it's not right and it's not wrong. It simply is.
yeah,
And the more that you stop resisting it, the more that you are open to uncovering it, the lighter your walk in your journey is going to feel.
exactly. And everyone's truth is different. So, you know, there's no right or wrong. And, you
That's
know, my truth may not be your truth, but it
it.
doesn't mean we can't be friends, you know, or we can't be there for each other, or, you know, in general, to ever, and you can't have the same opinion, the same truth as every single person around you, because then this
Exactly.
individualism, this
Mhm.
uniqueness would exist. Be
Exactly.
like clones from like Star Wars, Clone Wars or something. We'd be
No,
machines. We don't
no,
want that.
no, thank you.
No, not today, please. Not next week either. Yeah. So how can people connect with you? How can people reach out to you and say, hey, you know what Stephany's saying right now is really striking a chord with me. It resonates. And, you know, obviously from the experiences that you've had, you know, there's probably people out there who've equally shut stuff down because they thought, oh no, I'm hearing voices. I've said this to someone else. They think I'm bonkers. I'm going to shut up now. Or, you know, I've had to numb things out of my life because that was the only way I could get through the day. How can I, you know, I really want to step away from that. Or I want to learn how to self-heal. I'm really curious. This Reiki, and, you know, 100 modalities. I want to know more. You know, how can people reach out to you, Stephany?
So I'm on Facebook and on Instagram as the Golden Spirit Console. So there I have two pages. I have the Golden Spirit Console, which was the first page that I started many years ago. And then last year I actually also opened up the Golden Spirit Console Academy, where you can come on and discover about those over 100 different energy healing modalities.
Incredible. I'm just like, I'm blown away.
Some are pre-recorded. Some of them I do. I run live through different programs and whatnot. So my name is Stephany Gomez. My profile is public, so anyone who feels resonance and would like to friend me, go ahead and send me a friend request, or you can also just simply subscribe and follow to the Golden Spirit
Yeah.
Council web pages on Instagram or through Facebook.
And otherwise, if you think, oh, I've forgotten all that already, reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with Stephany. Absolutely no problem at all. Oh, this has been so nice. And thank you so much for sharing all this beautifulness. And yeah, I think a lot of it can be really relatable to our viewers today. And yeah, it's really nice to connect with you as always. So thank you so
Thank you.
much for your time today. And thank you to everyone who's been watching. You know, if it's the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, wishing you all so much love and best lessons from our hearts to yours. And we look forward to catching up with you again all very soon. So take care of yourselves and bye-bye.